We are recording.
It's been a while on our side.
Yeah, I think it's been more than a month.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 weeks since we've recorded an episode, even though in podcast land.
You think we're just like cranking these out like
every
gangbusters.
Week. But really, we have been watching Game of Thrones.
You're listening to the Fight for Together podcast.
And now it's done, and I'm depressed.
The intro worked. That's always a plus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I think this is going to be like a mega episode because we're getting back in the swing of things.
Mega.
Oh, crap. We were supposed to get cigars.
Yeah, I can go grab them.
Why don't you talk about Game of Thrones while I go get the cigars?
Okay. This is our second time watching Game of Thrones through 7 seasons. The 8th season, I think, is coming out sometime in the spring. And I actually think I enjoyed it more the second time around. The first time around was just so much to take in and a bit shocking. But I'm going to miss that bedtime routine. I love just zoning out to TV nonsense.
Well, so I think we should talk about why we appreciate it so much more the second time.
Yeah.
The first time, well, there's just a lot. There's a lot of characters and stuff.
It's a lot to take in.
But also, I think, well, for me, I'm just going to speak for myself. I felt guilty watching it.
Well, the first couple seasons we watched back in 2011 or 2012, and then we picked it back up again a few years ago when we watched it through the first time. So a lot has changed. A lot has changed since then. But yeah, I used to feel guilty too. Like, oh, I'm a Christian. I shouldn't watch this. There's nudity. There's sex. There's swear words. There's violence.
Let me tell you, that is the least of our problems right now. So the plan is, actually, we just watched it, and I really liked it. I don't want to really get into why, because there'll be more time for that. But now our plan is to watch it with the kids, because I think they'll really like it.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm excited to watch it with them, and I'm also a little nervous. Just like some of the scenes that come up, I'm like, oh, I feel like guilty as a parent. And some of our kids are more sensitive to that stuff than others. I don't know. But I think we have decided that it's worth the risk.
Well, I guess we're getting into it then, huh?
Oh.
So yeah, there's a few scenes that are like, what the fuck? But the assumption I'm making is our kids are going to know about this stuff and find out about this stuff anyways. At least like the sex side. You know, Game of Thrones has a unique violence side. But to me, that's like history. I mean, not history like it's nonfiction real, but this stuff happened. Like, whether you want to talk about the Holocaust or medieval times or people just being cruel. I mean, it's happening right now in this world. So I want our kids to know how to deal with these realities that have occurred historically and internationally throughout. You know, I just think we live in a unique time period now where we actually feel more civilized.
And like this could never happen. That kind of stuff could never happen because, we wouldn't stoop to that level. But
I'm really glad that the series is over because now we can start watching with our kids. But every night, Cammie and I were doing that.
Yeah,
and
almost.
Then we had no time for podcasting. But we recorded so many ahead of time that you guys...
That I was okay.
Because we care about you guys. Next update is, I haven't done... I feel like we've been gone for so long that I want to do the news section right now, mostly because I want to use the sound effect. I felt good.
In today's news,
the Fight for Together retreat is postponed.
Yeah.
We had talked about doing that this year.
February something. Yeah.
And I can't tell if it's just too soon or if we don't have the balls to do it. But at this point, it doesn't matter because it's not happening. We had 16 people respond to the questionnaire, most of which saying that it just wasn't worth the money to them or they didn't have the money, which is actually sad to me.
Sad or disappointing, or both?
No. Both.
Okay.
Because some people just don't have it. I get that. Okay, you don't got it, you don't got it. You can't squeeze water from a rock. You can't squeeze money from a rock. But I think some people have it, and it's not worth it for them. And, okay, I get it if we're not putting out a good enough product or if we're not worth it. Like, I'm actually okay with that. But what I feel like is people don't have it in their minds that this type of life change is worth it. You know, I mean, if it was Disneyland, people would pay $2,000 to go to Disneyland. That feels like life change, even though to me, that's like a drop in the bucket. I mean, it does have fond memories, I guess, but I just feel like, and I don't even care if it's us, but I feel like if you knew that you were going to a place for a weekend and you knew it could change the way that you treat your kids or your partner
Or yourself.
or yourself, yeah, yourself even, how much is that worth? And I just feel like that's not valued very much. So you guys can tell me if you think I'm seeing it wrong. Just type a little thing in the little comments. And like I said, I get some people don't have money. But I actually think people do have money. They just spend it in other areas that...
I think it's easier to think short term and short gratifications or things that, you know, you're gratified. What's that? You're gratified sooner.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. And I think maturing and growing is not a fun thing, really. It's kind of hard, actually. So and it's painful to put money, for most people it's painful to like spend money. So to spend
like
money,
counseling. People don't spend money on counseling.
Well, to spend
unless they're like
desperate crisis.
Yeah, unless they're going to get a divorce. Then they're like, oh, maybe I should go to a few sessions.
But to spend money in a place that's actually might even cause them pain. I mean, that's a little extreme. I don't think our retreats would cause pain, but growth can be painful.
So I want you guys to think real hard about this. I'm putting you in the corner, and you don't come out until
you care about your growth the way we care about your growth.
Evaluated your life, where your life is heading.
Yep. No, we're done with that kind of.
So this is postponed, and any number of things could happen. One is we could make it cheaper, but I hesitate to do that. I think the price is kind of high. What is it, $1,500 or I forget what I put down. But we wanted to do a weekend that is awesome. So it has like a sweet house, sweet meals, all lodging taken care of. Yeah. And our hearts are in it. And we've learned a long time ago. When I say a long time ago, I mean like 2 years ago. Not that long ago, actually. But it feels like a long time ago. That if we overextend ourselves for people that don't really appreciate it, it doesn't go very well. So I'd like to just be like, oh, let's just charge $100 and we'll like bust our ass for weeks ahead of time preparing.
Or donations.
Yeah, and then give ourselves for 48 straight hours, you know, almost dying emotionally. And then we'll do it for $400 and I'm like, you know what, I don't.
It used to be worth it to us because we used to get enough out of it, that type of thing, where we felt, oh, we're being used for God and this is great. But now, like, the veil is pulled back and I just don't believe that anymore.
There needs to be some sort of compatibility in terms of whatever it's worth to us and hoping it's worth to other people. So we did get the names on the list, and I think we might try and do it in another year and see if we can get 10 couples together. Because I still like the idea.
Yeah, I think it would be cool.
Crap, you know what I was going to talk about? Was that sex book, that SEC thing. That was on today's list. But I didn't tell you about that. We don't have that down here.
What's SCC?
I don't know. You tell me. You want me to like take this test and determine like if they're sexually compatible or something like that?
Well, no, it just determines. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but
is that next week?
Sure, I'm not really prepared.
Tune in next week for that. Okay. Next announcement. Final announcement. As of today, we are ending our relationship with Patreon. Have I told you about this?
In passing.
Okay. So Patreon is this website that people donate money to us and other people. And we're very thankful for the people that have supported us in the past. I was going to look it up, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to waste my time. People like give like monthly pledges. And we have been a little bit unique in our approach in that we have no funding for any of our projects right now. Meaning the most popular way is to turn on ads on YouTube, and we don't do that out of principle. We don't have to, first of all. And I feel like the advertising is a bit manipulative and sneaky and tricky. And even though people are agreeing to it, I'm not okay with it. So my idea is like, we'll skip the advertising instead of Nike giving us money or Nike giving YouTube money and YouTube giving us money and then you guys buying Nike shoes. Why don't we just make it optional and you guys can give us money if you want, and if not, great. So it hasn't brought in much money, but it's created an avenue where I think people can support us, and we feel a connection with some people that are partnering with us, really, and supporting our work.
And supporting it in that unique way with giving money.
Yeah.
Because I think there's other ways of supporting, but that's a one avenue that we've been able to see how people have supported us, which has been cool.
Definitely. But Patreon started to get under my skin. Recently, there was this stuff that went down. I don't know if you guys follow YouTube news, but Sargon of Akkad got kicked off. And this guy, I don't even know who he is, so it just doesn't matter. So please don't get political. His name's Sam Harris. I feel like I've heard his name, but I have no idea. But I saw his tweet. And it says, "Dear Patreon supporters, as many of you know, the crowdfunding site Patreon has banned several prominent content creators from its platform. While the company insists that each was in violation of its terms of services, these recent expulsions seem more readily explained by political bias. Although I don't share the politics of the banned members, I consider it no longer tenable to expose any part of my podcast funding to the whims of Patreon's Trust and Safety Committee." Okay, so once again, I want to be clear. I don't necessarily care about the accounts or the people that were treated by my viewpoint unfairly. But I don't like it when companies misrepresent themselves. And I don't want to say that they bullied these people, but I don't think they're being honest and upfront, and I think it could lead to that. And because of that, I don't want to be a part of it.
And that those people could very easily be us. It could be anyone. When you start treating people that way, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I don't know how we're going to close our account because I need to keep the lists of people on there that have supported us because we're sending out thank you cards soon. And once again, if you have supported us, whether it is, I think $1 is the minimum, $1, or I think someone is supporting us $25 a month, we really appreciate it. And if you still would like to support us, we have PayPal and Venmo, and those forms of payment are in the description always. But, and that's a whole conversation about the support. Our hope is that you don't feel any pressure. We're going to do this. We're going to pour our balls out because we love it.
Or ovaries.
And we want to do it. And if you think that it's like valuable to you, if it adds value to your life, and if you want to support us, I hope you consider that. That's it. Consider it. No pressure. Okay. I think that's all our news. And how far are we in to today's episode. 15 minutes. Holy crap. Whatever, we told you. We warned you this is a mega episode.
We talked about Game of Thrones for 5 minutes.
That's true. Oh, crap. I just missed another huge announcement. I'm going to play the news thing again. Because this is big. We have... Well, first, you got to wait. I want to tell you the problem, okay? We don't get many messages, but we have some today. But we haven't gotten any. And I blame myself and said I'm not interesting. I've tried to blame you guys, but that didn't go well. So I just want to say, maybe it's no one's fault. Maybe the Anchor app sucks. If nothing else, besides the fact you just have to download an app on your phone, so the process sucks. And what people really want is an easier way. Well, have I got an answer for you, Fight for Together listener that wants to interact with us more? We have a phone number now that is 100% dedicated to your just waiting on call to hear what you have to say. And this is 24 hours a day listening to anything you want to say. A question, perhaps, a comment, a response to a topic. And this phone number, are you ready for this? I'm going to put it in the show notes. I'll say it at the end if I remember, but this is it. 206. Okay? You know what area code that is? You do.
Seattle.
206 651 5744. I'm going to repeat that one more time. 206 651 5744. Now, I think that this will record messages up to 3 minutes long, if not longer. Now, don't take advantage of that too much.
Wow.
But
you guys have to listen to us for an hour, and we have to listen to you for 3 minutes. I don't know about that.
But you can just call it, and it'll go straight to voicemail, and it's our voices. We got in a fight when we were like recording it.
Oh, great.
I think we maybe re-recorded it. But we would love to hear your response.
Yes.
Okay, now we are ready to get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, which I just realized is a bit of a rerun, but I don't care because this is such an important topic for us that I hope it becomes too valuable to some of you guys. So Casey Neistat just released a video called Burnt Out YouTubers, and he's referencing this article from Insider. The article is titled, "The World's Biggest YouTube Stars Told Us They're Burning Out Because of the Unrelenting Pressure to Post New Videos." So, we've already covered an episode on burnout in the last 19 episodes, but as I was watching Casey Neistat's video, and I started to get some thoughts about our story, and frankly, if you're going to spend some time on this, watch his video over reading this article. I did not think the article was that good. I did appreciate Casey's perspective on it. So we're gonna read some clips from the article though, and we'll go from there. So this first one says, there are several reasons YouTube creators are at a heightened risk, including that they're often their own bosses, do the majority of their own editing, and are under pressure to stay relevant. I mean, that's not unique to YouTubers.
I think the relevant thing is probably the biggest.
That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Is what does that mean to stay relevant?
Because I feel like that's a
pressure
shifting definition, because and subjective. It depends on how big you want to get, and you know, there's so many different factors, I think. But
so I think relevant is a fancy word for what people like, right?
that can be a definition. Maybe is that what they mean by that? Because I also feel like it's not just what people like, but it's what interests people, which is maybe the same thing.
Yeah, it's what people like. I mean, I get what you're going. I think there are nuances, but
Yeah.
so this is like, that's a huge pressure.
It's what people like want to click on. It's what people want to hear. And which is really tough with YouTube videos. I mean, it's kind of like a book, I guess, but YouTube videos, it's even more because there's so many, and they're being created every single day.
Well, I've experienced this. I mean, it's just like when you're making videos for essentially a population, and that population is infinite. I mean, up to 8 billion people. Maybe not all of them have YouTube, but and they're chanting for more. We want more. We want better. We want funnier. We want whatever. The voices in our head, if that's what you're doing it for, it's like a slave driver. They never let up, because never will the internet stop asking for more.
Yeah.
It's like an evil
and that's
slave
where
driver.
I've appreciated Gary Vee, because he talks about just do what you are passionate about. Forget about the numbers.
That's the entire punchline.
Oh, I always do this.
I love it. Go with it. You know? It's like,
But yeah, I mean, that has helped me, because the numbers can be so distracting. And I actually think when you start caring about the numbers, it's a ticking time bomb before you get burned out, I think. Because if you do what you're passionate about, I mean, unless you like slump into some depression, or your dog dies, or your grandmother dies, or something horrible happens, I think you'll keep on keeping on. I think you still have the fire if you can tap into that passion. But I think what is constantly looming over my head is just look at the number. Is it going up? Is it going up? How fast is it going up?
Okay, see, I think that's a great point. But so here's the son of a bitch. For me, every number is a person, right?
Right.
And every person is special, right? I mean, like,
yes,
we believe this. I'm not joking. Like, this is the reality of it. So,
yep.
Like, we've seen our videos change lives. We've got thank you cards from people. People have sent us gifts. We get to know people a certain degree in the comments. It's super cool.
Right.
So that's like one side of the coin. It's just remembering that it's always people. But then what you just described, like focusing on the numbers, it actually stops being about individual people, and it starts becoming this like them, like the masses. And I think that's when we are dehumanizing the audience, and we're not even treating them as people.
Yeah.
And that's when it's hardest also, because you can't ever make that glob.
And then you dehumanize yourself by trying to pump out these products. I mean, it just bleeds down. Like, if you are dehumanizing people as seeing the masses, just seeing them as numbers, you become just a product, producer.
Are these ashes
I just gotta
in my
keep on
beer?
producing.
Or is that raspberry chunks?
I don't know. Let's go for it.
The next statement, Lily Singh says, YouTube kind of is a machine, and it makes creators believe that we have to pump out content consistently, even at the cost of our health and our life and our mental happiness. See, the reason why I like this article, I don't think this is about YouTube. I think YouTube is a
catalyst to show this type of thing.
Yeah, it's like a petri dish of like what is in all of our hearts in a way, that we have to all pump out, widgets or whatever it is to make whoever happy.
And to feel worthwhile ourselves.
And, I mean, yeah, fuck. It's like, even at the cost of our health and our life and our mental happiness. I mean, how many people, me and my job before YouTube, compromised my health, my mental happiness and our life totally for, I don't even know if it was for dollars. I think it was for them. Once again, this like nameless group of people that I thought wanted something, and I didn't know how to set limits. I didn't know how to stop it. So I was just like, well, I'll stop producing when they stop asking, and it never happened.
And you get an instant gratification when the subscriber count goes up, or you get a lot of views on a post, or a lot of comments.
I think that's one of the things that makes YouTube so hard. I mean, like,
it's like those daily doses of heroin.
Yeah, I mean, I think of Philip Yancey. This is an author that was influential for me in high school. He would like write a book for probably like 4 years, take another year to get it published, and then he'd probably start getting letters in like 4 weeks later. And then he'd write back. We post a video and it has like 20 views in 8 minutes, and then we start getting comments and thumbs up or thumbs down. And like, if you want to look at feedback, I could look at feedback all day long.
Well, and I think everyone experiences this if you have a Facebook account, if you have an Instagram account.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have a YouTube channel to experience this. I just think you start experiencing it at a more meta level, I guess.
And Facebook and Instagram and like a lot of the social media companies, they design their like UI like casinos do. It's like a slot machine where you get the instant gratification from the red little badge symbols that are always changing and always going up.
Yeah.
And YouTube does that for its creators. Like, our analytics homepage is constantly telling me, oh, your audience is going down or up, or here's how to save them, or it's always like, and sticking these numbers in my face that I don't even care about, but then I'm like, oh, that's a number.
I should care about this, right?
Turns it into a video game.
Yeah.
So here's from the article again. But some creators, so they have this whole section, which seems kind of dumb to me, but it's called being your own boss is a curse. For some creators, being their own boss is a curse. This can either mean working and editing late into the night every night, or never getting around to uploading at all. So they're saying, oh, it must be so much better if you have a boss. Well, to me, that's like, missing the overlying issue of then you're just letting someone else control your destiny and set your limits instead of yourself. And maybe they have your best interest in mind. Maybe they're going to look out for your health and your life.
Well, they could be setting the case for that some people maybe actually need to have a boss to help them have some level of health. Now, maybe it's not the best, but maybe it's better.
I mean, I agree with you, but I don't think that's what the article is saying, but I could be wrong. But, I mean, I've struggled with this because I've been self-employed now for a very long time. Maybe my last job was maybe 17 years ago with a boss. And
you told them you were going to quit to go bike across the country.
Which didn't work out very well, except for we discovered the Appalachian Trail. But, I've had to learn that, like, about myself, basically, that I have a tendency to never stop. And I think there's all sorts of things that have helped me along the way. Mm-hmm. Exercise, playing racquetball during lunches or 2 or 3 afternoons a week became pretty literally life or death. I mean, not life and death and like get my head taken off, but I think it will actually extend my life longer in terms of weeks or years and health. And like turning off my phone or email or my work mode, like let's just say at 5 or 6 p.m. or especially during meal times, or I'm not a Nazi about it anymore because I just feel like we have more of a flexible lifestyle. But I think there was a time period where I was working 50 hours a week and it wasn't enough, and it was never enough. And I think the biggest, of course, for us, for those of you guys that have been around, know that we honor or celebrate Shabbat or Sabbath, which is a 1 day a week where we just take it off. Like no work, no email, no phone calls, no meetings for maybe close to a decade now. And that was the biggest change because it just said that there was an end. Because there's never an end. And I mean, we used to say this with our kids, like, do you ever get done with the laundry? Like, no, because there's always going to be more laundry. And it's the same with email.
Unless you go nude.
I like where you're going with that.
But we can't in this culture.
How do I do
So we don't.
Where is it? Yeah, but we can't. So
there's never an end, but for us, once a week, we remind ourselves there's an end.
we have to make an end.
We choose to rest this day to remind ourselves that there is an end.
And I don't think there's anything magical about Saturdays or Friday nights or whatever day you choose to rest.
No.
But it's just a reminder that whatever that thing is that's driving you, 1, it's not real. 2, it'll never stop. 3, it'll kill you. Like, it doesn't care about your health. It doesn't care about the truth. It doesn't care about your life, whatever this article is saying. And I think that is what really people are feeling that have these YouTube channels that realize, oh man, I could always make another video. I could always get another viewer. I could always get another subscriber. I mean, even like the meme of the last 2 months in this PewDiePie versus T series, the largest YouTuber in the world has increased his subscriber count by almost 25% in the last 2 months. I think he's at 80 or 90 million subscribers, and it's not enough. I mean, everyone in the country for some reason is campaigning for him to get more.
Yeah.
It's like,
to stay on top.
Yeah. Of what?
I don't know. I like PewDiePie though.
I love him, but it's just like a funny thing. Okay. The next thing. Why don't you read this whole last thing?
Okay. The YouTuber subscriber relationship is vital but not sustainable. But as you get more famous, keeping up with the comments isn't viable, and it's hard to separate the praise and the constructive criticism from the noise and abuse.
So this is a tough one for me.
Yeah.
I could spend 2 hours plus just replying to comments this week, a day.
Yeah. Which still feels sustainable. But for these creators that have like, you know, yeah, I think even like, what, 500,000 subscribers, that's, or above. I mean, you're getting into Crazyville if you try to.
And this is where, you know what drives me nuts is Philip DeFranco has this like news YouTube show, and he always says this stuff. He has, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3, 4 million subscribers, and he's like, but I want to know what you think today. Leave a comment below, you know. And I'm like, you're not reading 10,000 comments. You don't give a shit what people think. You can't. I mean, you might like care what the top
sentimentality might be there, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's not a nice guy.
Yeah.
But you can't care about 3.5, like what 3.5 million people think. Like, that's not how you got there. Just by caring what 3.5 million think. You got there by caring about the news or honesty or truth or something. And yeah, you care about people generally speaking, but like, I don't know, it's like manipulation, and YouTube promotes this. So we're in this hard place because I believe, as I already said, that every one of our viewers is a valuable human being. But I also acknowledge our impact can only go so far, and I think the majority of our service that we have to our audience is to make the original product. And I really do want to honor people that spend time taking it to the next level and help people by responding, and I do appreciate a lot of the feedback.
yeah.
But if we get double, triple, quadruple our subscribers, it's going to be really tough. I don't know what we're going to do. Because we're going to be in this spot where we have to choose between ignoring people, which is hard. But I think it will serve the majority of the people by making regular content that we're proud of.
Yeah.
So I had a few other thoughts that I was going to sprinkle in, but I forgot. So these are just some of the notes. But I heard of this guy that made this poker bet recently. I forget what his name is, but you can look it up online, where he bet someone $100,000.
Ben really likes poker.
I do, but I haven't played it in a really long time.
I actually like poker too, but Ben really likes poker.
Okay, since you're going off script, I'm going to tell you guys a little poker story. So right before we moved from Seattle, I got invited to the Founders game, which is it's like the venture.
That sounds important.
What?
That sounds important.
It was super important. These were like the VC guys, the most wealthiest crowd in all of Seattle were the venture capital and startup founders group, and they had a private poker game in the basement of a high rise. And I got invited to it. And I went like three times. I think I might have lost a couple of $1,000. I mean, these guys are buying in for $10,000. Mm-hmm. They hire a dealer. I mean, it's serious business. And that was my dream. Mm-hmm. And I made it. And then we moved here to Cincinnati.
right after you made it.
And I looked for a game here, and I could not find a good game. For me, a good game needs to be at home. It needs to be high stakes.
We used to play poker in our 20s with like this group of single guys that we were friends with from high school. Ben and I did. I remember playing poker the night I went into labor with Dove.
That's really fun.
I mean...
Well, I played with the Nuge up until I moved here. And we were playing one night a week.
I know. I'm just saying we have a long history and a funny history with poker.
Okay, so poker players make weird bets. This one bet existed where it was $100,000 if this guy could stay in a bathroom with no lights, no electricity or no devices.
No daylight. Everything's...
No daylight, no sound. It was soundproof. And meals were delivered to him twice a day at random intervals of time. So wrap your mind around this for a second. So he's on like day 3. He has no idea what day it is because there's no clock. There's no electricity. Meals are coming around. It
could be day 20 or day 1 for all he knows.
He's just like lost track completely. So it's it's essentially like sensory deprivation, solitary confinement. And he was going to get $100K if he did it. Mm-hmm. And they ended up, it's kind of a boring thing because after like 3 weeks, they like settled on like $70K or something. Mm-hmm. So he got that much. But the guy that made the bet, he said the mistake that he made in making the bet was he didn't realize how powerful the optional factor was. The fact that the guy could have walked out at any time.
He had freedom.
It made it not that big of a deal. Like if I lock you in the thing and then
it's against my will,
and then I walk away, and you have no idea if I'm ever going to see you again, if you're going to die there, if it could be 2 days, 2 hours, people go crazy. And there's all these like studies.
Even animals go crazy with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean they were talking about like the kind of delusion people go through and how like crazy it gets. Yeah. But this guy didn't go through that because he could walk out at any time. So with this YouTube stuff, I think one of the things that's like really important that makes the difference with everything is if you believe that you can quit at any time, whether it's for a day
and life will go on,
or a week, and you're still a human, you're not less of a human, or you didn't like disappoint a million people that your identity rests on. I think it's a game changer. But if you actually think and have this feeling, which I've had a little with YouTube, but more with my job before YouTube, was like, I was like, I have to do this. Like, and I didn't know why exactly. I just felt like if I didn't, I'd be letting some cosmic force down that would bring things to a halt and I might die. I mean, that's how it felt. Yeah. And when you don't know the difference between optional and not, when it doesn't feel optional, I think that the suffering factor, the burnout factor, whatever you want to call it, the unhealth factor is so much higher.
That's interesting. It's like in our humanness, we need to be able to exercise our will. And if we don't, we kind of wither and die.
And I guess what I want to say is in America, my observation is that most people aren't working for food. Very few people are like ever on the verge of like literal starvation. Most of what we're working for is like college tuition and retirement funds, and
Which is all
eat
kind of
out,
status symbols.
which are all like wonderful, nice things, but they're all just optional. And I
Yeah.
think it would do us good to remember that. Otherwise, we have the same intensity as if we're going to starve, but really it's not reality.
I think it was really good for us after the AT to take 3 months off of vlogging.
Oh, I love that.
I think those types of reality checks are good, where we'll probably be back, but we need to take this time off because we're actually just human.
We just want to drink coffee.
And not have to film it every single day.
That was a really nice 3 months. So then I read the Stephen Pressfield book, his latest book, I don't know, The Artist's Journey. I'm a huge Stephen Pressfield fan as an artist, and he wrote this story about this guy. I do not remember who this guy is. I feel like it was some movie guy in New York that's 80. So it wasn't George Burns, but it was one of those guys that looks like him.
Look-alike.
Who's the Woody Allen? Maybe, I don't remember. I don't know. But the bottom line was this guy. He makes like videos, movies that get Emmy awards. Is that the thing? Academy Awards, whatever they are.
Movie is Academy. I
Okay,
think.
the biggest awards. His movies win these awards, and he lives in New York, and it'll be like the night of the Academy Awards, and you know what he does? It's like Tuesday night. He like goes to his local bar and plays freaking darts with the same group that he always plays with on Tuesday nights. And then he goes home at 10 p.m., has a glass of milk, and goes to bed.
Instead of going to the
Academy Awards, instead of watching the Academy, and this
Yeah.
is when he wins. I mean, he's like winning.
and they're like, and the winner is where is he?
And he's like having a beer with his buds because it's Tuesday night. And then he wakes up Wednesday morning and he goes to work. And I like that story. I mean, there's a reason why they put it in this book, but it resonated with me because it's like kind of the ultimate, like, my audience or whatever these powers that be that give awards, which are somewhat arbitrary. They don't make my work better. Like, I've already made the work. So it's just like focusing on approval. It doesn't control me. And I love that because he's just saying like, fuck you guys and your awards. I mean, he's not being mean, but he's just saying like, it really doesn't matter to me. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and work on my next project.
This is just a system and I'm opting out.
And we did that. We released our biggest, it won't be our biggest film ever, but one of them, this Appalachian Trail documentary. And the next day, it was Monday morning, and we filmed coffee being ground. And it's like, okay, the Appalachian Trail video is going to get 200,000 views, I imagine. This next video we're working on is getting 1,000. But we're doing it, and the show goes on.
Yeah.
We're not doing it for views. So, I don't know. Those are some sirens. There was, the final thing I have to say is there was this comment on our video after the Appalachian Trail. So, okay, this is really funny actually. So we make the Appalachian Trail documentary, and the next day, so that's probably the biggest video we'll make all year. And the next day, the video that we release is what?
Oh, the nudist.
Yeah, it's us going to a nudist resort. So I was kind of like, dang it, like, if you want to capture an audience that like takes you seriously, that's not the video you should lead with. And our kids were like rolling their eyes, and they were like, kind of dang it. And I was like, well, you know what? It's our life. So I just did it. I didn't even like think about it.
I really like that because it shows that we're like a whole person. We're not just our sexy Appalachian Trail documentary. We also go to nudist resorts.
Yeah.
And we like that.
Oh wait, that was off topic of what I was gonna say. Sorry, that didn't matter. But one of the comments, the nudist video didn't matter because I was mixing multiple comments. The jump the shark comment. Okay, we'll tell that story. So we got a video or a comment on the nudist one that that we jumped the shark. Which
I didn't know what that meant.
so you want to explain to our audience now? Do you know?
I can explain what I know in my head, but I don't know if it's correct. I think it means you've like sabotaged your like whole platform by just doing something completely stupid or something that people don't feel like is honorable or great.
No, it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
It's not that you sabotage, but so there was this famous episode in Gilligan's Island where
that's right. I forgot.
where someone jumped the shark. I don't even know what that means, but there was a shark involved, and they said that ever since that episode, for whatever reason, the show went downhill and people stopped caring.
Yeah.
So we come up with our Appalachian Trail with this epic 6-month series, and then it's like Nudist Colony and some guys like, you guys just jumped the shark. And I was like, wait, we've been putting videos on YouTube for 3 years, and this one video now you're saying is like our we jump the shark like every week.
I know.
Okay, back to the topic. On the Appalachian Trail documentary, one of the comments that has got the most likes actually was something like, I'm glad you guys finished, so now all the haters, to show all the haters that they underestimated you, or something like that. It was to prove something to all the haters. And I had to wrestle with this on the trail because there were a lot of haters, and it's one of the things we talked about in our documentary. But I think that is a dangerous way of approaching work. If you're doing things to prove things to haters. Mm-hmm. Because it's, who are the haters? I mean, the hater is this mass, and what we saw on our trip is that, like, there is this one Reddit page that was like just slamming us like crazy. And then, you know, we finish, and then we make a kick-ass documentary. And are they talking about us now? No. Yeah. They moved on because, you know what, they don't actually care about us at all, even as a topic. They care about hating people. So if we're easy to hate, they're going to hate us. And then once we get difficult, they'll find other people that are easy to hate. Because they actually don't, the truth or us is not important to them. So if we, let's say we're like in this really crappy time in the AT, and then we're like, no, we need to go on to prove to the haters, you know, to prove to all those people. I think it'd be a really bad way to finish, especially if we put our own health or our child's safety or our own preferences in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a huge motivator, though.
Well, I had to wrestle with, okay, what if we don't make this and then all the haters are right? I had to turn it that way and say, like, will I feel like a failure? Will I get angry? Or I don't know. Like, I think I get where people are coming from because everyone has haters in their life, so it's relatable. But at the same time, it's not a sustainable thing to do something for, just so that people, you know, just to prove something.
All right, we had a 2-year-old walk in here. Can you take care of him? Hey, you wanna say hi in the microphone before you go to bed? So there's the camera. If you look up there, you can see those are the people that watch the podcast, and then you can talk here. You can say hi.
Say hi.
Hi.
Are you supposed to be asleep?
No, I just want to come down and at the day.
Yeah, it's 10:45 p.m.
So can you say goodnight to everyone? Nope, he doesn't want to.
All right.
Good night.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so what was that?
Okay.
Cammie's taking care of the child. What should I talk about while we do that? Well, okay. I'll say this in terms of the work that we have created for ourselves with the YouTube thing. I think the question then becomes, why do you do it if you're not doing it for the audience? And what has helped us with YouTube, and this sounds selfish, but it's so weird to me that it comes across as being selfish, but I think you have to do it for yourself. You have to find the work that makes you feel good, and it can benefit others. I think some of the best work we do does benefit others. And the best work that we ever do is the work that feels the best for us to complete. And this isn't always, of course. But, for a lot of years, we made YouTube videos with hardly anyone watching them. But we made videos about the content that we wanted to make, the content that we believed in. And we did it whether we were getting money, views, or thumbs up. And it's kind of the only way that I know of to, make that divorce and ensure that you're not going to be held captive by this kind of like ever driving force. So I don't know. My hope is for you guys that you guys will see this as something that's much bigger than a YouTube channel. And I think you guys have projects and feelings inside of you of jobs that you could be doing. And I hope that people are pursuing those, because the son of a bitch is, there's what you get paid for, which is what someone, whether it's your boss or society, says, oh, that's worth it for us. But then there's a thing that you know that you like to do that right now, at least, no one will pay you for. And that might be the most important thing.
That'll bring life to you because it's what you're passionate about.
Okay, it is time. We have all sorts of phone calls today. I can't wait. Here's number one.
Hi, Ben and Cammie. I just finished listening to your recent podcast on parenting and really enjoyed the discussion on motivating kids. I'm wondering specifically how you guys motivate your kids through the bigger physical challenges of hiking long distances, marathons, and everyday running. I want my kids to engage these activities with me, but some days it's like pulling teeth, and I'm not sure how to get them going and keep them moving in these more physically challenging activities that I think are great for building discipline and resilience. I appreciate any thoughts you have. Thanks, guys.
What do you think?
Well, it's kind of hard because now we're like, whatever you want to do, kids, go for it. If you don't want to run, you don't have to run. But
yeah, but I think we can talk about, maybe not everyone knows, but what Cammie's referring to is for 2019, we're not doing any rules. We haven't mentioned it on the podcast yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is like different world, whole different audience.
A whole new world.
So, there's two things that I can think of that have worked for us. One is you just got to do it, and you got to love it. But if you're not doing it, and if you don't love it, I don't know why your kids would.
So an example for us with running, when we first started running, we would set really short goals, and we would have like, let's run to ice cream and make it fun.
Well, before that even, I ran a marathon with 7, and I was just like, hey, do you want to do this? He was 7 or 8.
Yeah. And
he was like, yeah. And neither of us knew. He didn't know what 26 miles was, but we just said, okay, let's do this. And we ran a marathon. Mm-hmm. And I remember you and all the kids met us at the finish line, and they all saw it.
Yeah.
And they were like, that is so cool. Can we do next year?
They got inspired.
Yeah, but we had to just do it.
Yeah.
I didn't force anyone.
Yeah.
And so I just think, to me, that's been our biggest shift in parenting in general, is instead of trying to slam passion, you model it, or slam discipline rather. Like for Cammie and I, we had a big shift 5 years ago where we started learning about the things that we wanted to learn about. And then I think it's contagious. Like the kids are going to be learners. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. The second thing, very, very practical, is in the moment, let's say you're at mile 13, or let's say on the AT you're in New York or whatever, is to tell the kids the truth of what you believe about them, which very simply is saying, for us, I think you can do this. We've had to say that so many times, especially early on when Cammie was saying we're doing these 3-mile runs. And the kids, they honestly don't know. You know, and they basically think they can. Most parents agree with them, and they're like, yeah, let's walk back to the car. You can't.
Well, it's this gentle balance between pushing them and then actually going at their pace.
Oh, that's really important. So when we ran initially, we did not time ourselves ever, both in time or mileage. And the running was the event. Like we didn't have goals to set time. We were just like, we're going to go out and talk and enjoy the city and move. And if we have to walk, we'll walk. So we ran until we couldn't run anymore, and then we walked, and then we started running again.
Right.
Yeah, so it wasn't like we tried to make it, ironically, as little discipline as possible. Because our premise was maybe running could be fun.
And when our kids were having a hard time, when they do have a hard time, we try to meet them where they're at and enter into that without like giving up with them. We don't do that, but it's entering into, yeah, this is hard. How can I help you? Or let's hold hands. Will that help? And just little things like that, I think, go a long way.
Now, there's another secret weapon that we've used, which we're wondering about now, which is basically massive amounts of bribery in the form of gummy bears, pizza, ice cream.
Right.
Like basically saying, I mean, the first thing I ever did with the kids is I said, if you run 100 laps, if you run 10 laps, you get ice cream. If you run, this is in a month. If you run 20 laps, you get this. And 100 laps was movie and pizza with their cousins, and they all did it. And my philosophy early on with like especially 2, 3, 4-year-olds walking long distances was we'll give them a gummy bear every like 30 minutes. And the idea for me was they don't care about our trail. They don't care about walking 95 miles, which is what we were doing. You know, they care about a gummy bear in 15 minutes. So if I could attach a tangible reward at shorter intervals, something they actually do care about, then it'll help them get through the meta goal. And I think that's what we're examining right now. Is there's a downside to that though when you turn walking into earning gummy bears. So then kids are doing it for gummy bears basically. So I think I don't like that as a long-term thing, but you know, I don't mind it as short-term.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think for really little kids especially, it's tough not to have any of those types of motivators.
Hey Crawfords, this is Jess from Cincinnati, and I just wanted to drop by and give you a message since you didn't have any on this last podcast, and just say thanks for sharing. Your journey sounds exactly like the one my husband and I have been on, and it's just been nice to know that we're not the only outliers asking big questions and not afraid to take the next steps when we get answers. So thanks, and if you haven't checked out Richard Rohr's work on alternative orthodoxy, I highly recommend it because it's amazing. Yeah, keep up the great work and see you around.
Wait, there's more.
Hey, it's Jess again. I actually do have a question. Feel free to not play my other one. Speaking of Richard Rohr, do you guys know your Enneagram types? And if so, would you be willing to share?
Do we know our Enneagram types?
Yes.
Oh man, Cammie thought you'd never ask.
I should have you talk about this.
Well, why don't you share where you were at tonight?
I love Enneagram so much. I'm taking a class on it right now. Every Wednesday night for 4 weeks on Enneagram and relationships.
It's a class specifically on types 8, 9, and 1. And Dove and her are going. But Dove is in Washington right now.
Right. I am a 9.
And I'm an 8.
And Ben's an 8.
Which is
Fire and Ice.
Which is that's Game of Thrones. Which is Challenger.
That's what they call
really?
Our types. Yes.
Bubs,
we're so hip.
We're Game of Thrones. We're made for it.
We're such geeks.
8 is a Challenger. and 9 is the peacemaker. And Cammie likes to point out how 9 is the crown of the Enneagram, so she likes to wave that over all of our heads, and we basically mock her about that title because she read that in a book somewhere.
Because they're jealous.
And the Enneagram has been a helpful tool for us to understand things. And I thought it was funny, speaking of Richard Rohr, so there's this funny Richard Rohr moment we had where we were in Washington this last summer after finishing the trail, and we walk into this bookstore, and I had heard of Richard Rohr but not spent a lot of time with him yet. And my daughter Dove, 17, walks into this bookstore that's like not Barnes and Noble size, but it's not like super tiny either. I would guess maybe like 10,000 books. And she walks out with one book, and it was an Enneagram book by Richard Rohr. And we hadn't even we've never mentioned that name to her. It's probably the only Richard Rohr book in the entire bookstore. And like shortly after that, like it was on my list, I was like, I need to listen to Richard Rohr. And I was like, you walked out with one book out of 10,000, having never heard this name from us. Is this one of those moments?
You must have come from us.
And in terms of alternative orthodoxy, I think that's that thing we were just listening to.
With Rob Bell.
Yeah, on some Rob Bell podcast where he was interviewing Richard Rohr.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about his 8 points, and we never made through that because we were...
Not all the way through.
We were listening in Tampa on our vacation. So we will finish checking that out. Thanks for those recommendations.
Hi, Ben and Cammie. I had a question for you guys regarding your own growth in the area of understanding your sexual fantasies. In past vlogs and in a specific vlog you guys made shortly before leaving for the AT, you spoke about how you had worked through feeling guilt around sexual fantasies with your therapist. And I was curious where you guys are at with that now. If you have any new insights after coming off the AT and assimilating back into new life, and if there's anything you'd like to share. I thought your thoughts on the topic were really interesting, and I'd love to know where you guys are at now. Sexual fantasies, thoughts. Thanks for sharing.
Do we have any thoughts? Boy,
Yeah.
do I. Man, favorite topic.
I think that's matured from when we first talked to our therapist, because I just remember feeling...
I think maybe we should give an overview because...
Sure, yeah.
I mean... Let's just tell the story of what we believe right now.
Take the mic.
When you say it in that voice, I want you to share your sexual fantasies right now.
Maybe I will, but take the mic.
So, yeah, we have evolved. And long story short, we have no problem with sexual fantasies. Mm-hmm. We have come to see, so growing up, there was a lot of shame around sexual fantasies. And I spent probably 8 years in sexual recovery with the goal being to remove and end sexual fantasies, which sounded noble at the time. But one, I've kind of changed my belief about the danger or benefit or morality of them. I guess I'll just say that. And two, I don't think trying to remove a fantasy ever really works. It's not the best way, at least. So what I currently believe right now is that any fantasy is information. It tells you about what's going on in your heart or your head or something.
And I see it as like someone's imagination too, where there's like creativity happening, and we deem, well, this is my baggage, but we deem it as bad.
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah, I guess people do. But there's, like, if you were to have a fantasy of any other area, let's say I fantasize for world peace, or I fantasize for, a bigger house or a hot tub or a vacation, that's, I think if you're just be like, that's bad, don't think about it. Whatever it is, first of all, what goes on in your head I don't think is just intrinsically bad. I think how you act upon it, if you steal to go on a vacation, or if you have a fantasy about a woman that I guess is not your wife, and then you sneak around and not tell your wife or your kids and violate a contract, Now we're talking about something real. But just the fact that I think about blonde women. So what we used to notice is our fantasies, this was all kind of like subconsciously, I guess, but they would drive us apart because sometimes we have fantasies outside of sex, sexually. Sometimes we have sexual fantasies during sex about each other or other people. And we felt shamed about it, so we wouldn't talk about it, and we just kept on trying to get rid of it. And it didn't work. The sexual fantasies persisted, and the guilt is kind of what I think was dangerous and would actually drive us apart. So, and I think there's like a chapter in Passionate Marriage. It's this like 70s or 80s sex book that was popular in pop culture, and we read the first chapter just over the summer after the trail, and they lay out this experiment just of sharing your sexual fantasies with your partner as a way to let your partner in on who you are, and I mean, I'll just give one of mine because my sexual fantasies, a lot of them revolve around like nude beaches or some type of scenario, which, I'm not even going to defend it, but I'm just going to share what I've come to appreciate about that is even being an Enneagram 8, someone who's driven towards intense intimacy and challenging, and this is in sexual and complete non-sexual ways. I crave transparency and grittiness and honesty. And whether it be like actual physical clothes or masks or like proverbial or emotional masks that people put up, one of my fantasies is for people just to be real with each other. So picturing someone on a nude beach, or actually, I don't care if it's a nude beach, but just a beach where they are just like not encumbered or ashamed. I love that stuff. I mean, it speaks to not just sexual arousal, although sometimes it does, but it speaks to like what I want the world to be and what I feel like I can contribute to the world. And I didn't know that for a long time. I just felt like, oh, I'm just obsessed with like naked chicks or boobs or, whatever. And so it was so exciting to start sharing these things with Cammie. And obviously, this is not for the faint of heart in relationships. If jealousy is an issue in your relationship, that is going to prevent this. But one of the things we've learned is to be honest about it and to say, don't blame the sexual fantasy for causing the jealousy. Jealousy is jealousy. Mm-hmm. It's easy to blame porn or another woman or the fantasy or the guy, whoever. Mm-hmm. But, jealousy is something that just, I think, can, and I would prefer it dealt with on its own. That's a whole nother topic, though. Yeah.
Well, what I keep thinking about, which is maybe slightly off topic, but it's this bigger picture of, I think one of the reasons we have such a hard time in our culture with sexual fantasies is our obsession with monogamy. Like, and that even goes into our imaginations. Like, we have to be monogamous in our imaginations.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Anyways, I know that's like a bit broader of a topic, but that's kind of where I see the obsession is like there's only one right way to do relationships, and it's monogamy, and if anything outside of that is wrong or dangerous, probably stems from puritanical Christian views.
So I know how some of the people reply in our comment section and their viewpoints of monogamy and purity and things, and it's very similar to stuff we've believed, so I'm not saying it in a degrading way. But if you have a negative viewpoint of someone else's sexuality, I would just assume that they're not going to feel comfortable sharing their fantasy with you. And you might be like, well, great, I don't want to know it anyways. But I can almost guarantee you they're still going to have it, and it's going to create a wedge then that I think is unnecessary in a relationship. That it's a wedge that you're creating because of your standard. Now, maybe you have to have your standard. So I'm not trying to knock the standard, but I just want to state the consequence of that. So one of the things that's been so cool for us is to have the freedom to be very explicit about our sexual fantasies and just to share them and be like, yeah, the nude beach things, or it can be even like things that some people consider weird, which I don't anymore, but rape fantasies. I'm not talking about me, by the way, although, I'm sure that happens. I'm talking about other people on this podcast.
Where?
Hang on. Where are they? They're right.
All right, since you called me out.
I wasn't calling you out. I was just...
What?
I wanted to talk about rape as a legit sexual fantasy, but I can't do it personally because it's not my fantasy.
And I don't know if I'd call it that for me, but for me it's more of like a sexual fantasy of... Maybe it is rape. Gosh, damn it. And it's funny as you're talking about the Enneagram 8 because, so for me, being a 9... Nines have a hard time.
Are you going to blame this on Enneagram right now?
Well, I got to do something because
all nines are.
No, just hold on. I'll tie it around. I think, so my sexual fantasies often are me being against my will, or that's a loose, I don't know how much of it is against my will, but it's like more or less feels that way. And so I don't think of having sex against my will, or having orgasm or whatever. And I think for a while now, I've kind of thought, well, maybe that's because I'm not comfortable with my sexuality. And I think that is part of it, that I've struggled to own and become comfortable and see my sexuality as good and something to express, and it's great. But also the Enneagram 9, I have a hard time knowing what I want. And so I'm more comfortable someone else telling me what I want than me actually saying, this is what I want. So there you have it. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So
I know, seriously, that's where probably half the people, homeschool moms, have the same fantasy.
Hey, Ben and Cammie. So I'm looking for some advice. I've heard you guys say in the past that neither of you work a typical 9-to-5 job. And to me, and probably a lot of other people, this seems like an awesome setup for raising kids and investing in family as well as community. Do you believe this is a feasible way to live for anyone who desires it? If so, how do you get there? Do you have any practical advice regarding creative and innovative ways to make money that fall outside of a standard 9-to-5 framework? I don't want to believe that you guys are just special unicorns that are the only people living like this, or you're the only people who made it work.
I am a special unicorn.
And I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in regards to this. Thanks.
Sorry, I interrupted. I am a special unicorn. I want to make that clear.
Ben's 8's like, no, I am special.
This is Greer. That's a great question.
That is a great question.
We don't have a lot of time because we're way over, but I want to do it justice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't honestly know how to answer this.
Okay, I'll go for it then.
So,
you hop in. Okay, 1, follow Gary Vee. He's an Instagram creator. He swears a lot, but obviously you don't have a problem with that because you listen to us.
He swears more than us, if you can imagine.
Yeah, but he has influenced my, at least, conciseness, because we've done this and I believe in it, but he coaches people in how to do it a lot. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is this: do what you like. And so that sounds kind of simple, and it sounds probably kind of...
And like it's not going to make money.
Like cotton candy-ish. Yeah, but when you do what you like, you're capitalizing on the unique way, usually, that you can create value. The way that you're unique and different on this planet that no one else is. So if you like sewing, figure out a way to sew. Maybe it's an Etsy shop. Maybe it's, a YouTube sewing channel, or to talk about the types of things that you like, buying or selling sewing products. And I just have this belief that there's something that you're good at that no one else in the world is good at in the exact same way. And if we do that, not only will you love it, but it actually is the best way to capture value, and value is where money is made. So, the only other caveat I'll add to that when I say do what you like, it's obviously not just like watching TV. We've encouraged our kids, and we have this kind of like strategy or philosophy, I don't know what to call it, where we want to be story writers, not just story readers. So we want to contribute, produce, and not just consume. We think there's a lot of value in that, both for us. This podcast is for you guys, but it's also really valuable for us. We learn so much by constantly pumping out content and meeting deadlines and shipping product. So set a deadline, think about what you value. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like if you try the sewing thing for 3 weeks and you're like, that sucked, I hated that, I actually don't like sewing, that's still a win. And then try something else. But to me, there's something there. I know this is kind of, I don't know, it's not super prescriptive and it's kind of general, but I guess it's what I wish I would have heard. And I think it's what we've done. We like family. We liked hiking. We liked hiking with family. So we made videos. And I think it was the largest YouTube channel on the trail this year. Or at least it was up there. But that wasn't our goal, and we didn't make any money off it. But I think if we wanted to, it would have been a pretty damn good way to make money.
Don't be afraid to start small either.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to, unless you're one in the million people that just make it big all of a sudden. But most people don't.
If you need to pay your bills tomorrow with said hobby or passion, I think that's a very daunting and unrealistic way to start.
Often people have to do it on the side, realistically.
Yeah, so if you can start doing something for 1 hour a day instead of Netflix, 5 or 10 hours a week, Gary Vee calls it the side hustle. Like, I'm all for it. Totally all for it. Those were great questions. Thanks for not making us give you guys crickets. If you guys want to leave a question or a comment, especially about sexual fantasies, that would be spectacular. And now you have more than one way to do it. The phone number, once again, I'm going to pause for 5 seconds while you get your thing
phone
to write this down, because you're going to want to you're going to want to just put in your favorites probably.
Yep, speed dial.
That's what I would do. Is 206-651-5744. That and other things will be in the description, the podcast description, the YouTube description, whatever.
And if you've listened to this whole thing, congratulations. You are a winner.
And congratulations for us tonight for not starting Game of Thrones for the 3rd time. We gotta celebrate the win.
We are going to, but just with our kids.
Everywhere. All right.
Thank you for listening to Fight for Together. We'll see you next time.